Psychology is a very, very young discipline, and psychology applying itself to well-being and health is an even younger discipline. Man's search for his own well-being or her own well-being predates psychology. Man's attempt to understand himself, the nature of the self, and the nature of suffering predates psychology. It's been a feature of the psychology of well-being over recent decades that we have borrowed very heavily from Buddhist traditions, and particularly Buddhist practice of mindfulness. There has been an explosion in the literature and practice of mindfulness-based stress reduction, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, and also some of the Buddhist ideas on the nature of suffering and on the nature of self have very much been incorporated into psychological views of well-being. So it is in this spirit and search for answers to these questions that we are absolutely honoured tonight to have Sister Insight speak on well-being through mind and body. It's really important for us as psychologists to acknowledge the contribution that this tradition has made to well-being and the psychology of well-being, and we do so in an open stance towards learning and openness from other ancient traditions and trying to learn from the wisdom of ancient traditions. Sister Insight is a senior Dharma teacher in Plum Village, which is a monastery founded by Thich Nhat Hanh. She was ordained as a nun 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, and lives her daily life practicing mindfulness and doing mindfulness retreats throughout the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honour. Can I introduce Sister Insight?
At first, when Virgin and I discussed about this trip, we thought we wanted to have a talk. We thought maybe 50 people would be good. And now we almost have up to 400 people. And this is a sign that there's a collective awakening in humanities nowadays, at our present time. That people are really waking up to something like this. There's a need for a spiritual path. There's a need for a path in our lives, a path that would enable us to touch peace and happiness in ourselves, a path of beauty. And more people are coming to our center in Plum Village. More people are coming to retreats. There's a request for retreats everywhere in the world. And there is a really deep hunger for a path that would help people to live a happy, peaceful life really everywhere. And mindfulness is a practice that is really becoming mainstream in many places. In the US, where we have 3 centers right now, 3 monasteries, where we travel, our teacher and our community in Plum Village is traveling every 2 years to teach. And mindfulness is becoming mainstream because it's used in the healthcare profession, it's used in schools, it's used in the military and in business. Our teacher have been to Google to talk about mindfulness practice and how to deal with the stress that is like overwhelming for people who work at Google. And so what I would like to share with you tonight is how to practice mindfulness. What is the relevance of mindfulness in our daily life? And how to really embrace this practice, even if you're not Buddhist, and even if you're not a spiritual person. Because it's a practice that anyone can do, at any time, anywhere. And that it brings benefits immediately, just like what we just did. Did anybody feel relaxed? Raise your hand. Thank you. By the way, how many of you are coming to something like this, to a talk or a mindfulness a retreat on mindfulness for the first time? Can I see hands? Not so many of you. So many of you have been to a class, probably. But how many of you have been to our community in France, Plum Village? Just a few of you. Okay, great. Thank you. So it's so mindfulness is not new for you, but you're probably not familiar with this, with monastics. But let me just tell you a little bit about our community. We're just two among more than 200 monastics living in Plum Village. And on the nun side, we have about 175 sisters. So they are here with me. They are here with us. Our teacher is also here with us tonight. So I'm not alone. I'm with my whole community here, and I'm sharing on their behalf. I'm sharing. I'm offering you the practice and the teachings with my community, with my teacher. And so mindfulness is it's an energy. It's an energy, and it's an energy inside ourselves. It's a potential that we have. We call it seed. And the moment we are able to come back to our breathing, like what we just did, or come back to our body, become aware of our breathing and of our body, we're really tapping into that seed. And that seed manifests. And when this seed of mindfulness manifests, it becomes an energy. And what this energy does is that it helps us to be truly alive. That brings our mind back to the present moment. Instead of running in 10 directions all the time, it's here and now with our body. It's one with our body and mind. And it's only when our body and mind are together as one that we're truly alive, that we can really savor the life that we have in this moment, that we're not carried away by the past, or worrying about the future, or preoccupied about what's happening in the moment, in the present, with projects, worries, anxieties. That the moment we are able to come back to our breathing, we're present, we're mindful, we are aware of what's happening inside ourselves, in our body, in our mind, and also what's happening around us. And so it's a very powerful energy. It's the energy that helps us to wake up. It's an energy that helps this, what I just called a collective awakening, an awakening in ourselves. And when we shed this energy of awareness, onto something that's painful, for example, like a physical pain, for instance, or an emotional pain, for instance, it helps to embrace the pain. It helps us to like step out a bit from the pain so that we're not overwhelmed by the pain. It helps to lessen the intensity of the pain until we have enough clarity in ourselves to really see deeply into the pain, to see causes and conditions that brought about the pain, to help us to see the way we consume, the way we think, to help us to see a lifestyle that contribute to this pain. And so it enables healing to happen in our body and also in our mind. But when we shine this awareness onto something that's positive, like a feeling of well-being in our body, for example, or a feeling of love, or a feeling of generosity, then we really help to solidify the roots of this well-being and the depths of our being. It helps to prolong the experience, and it helps the seed of well-being, to become stronger in ourselves. And so mindfulness, or being aware or being conscious, really help healing in that way. And the moment we are able to stop bringing our mind back to the present moment, we can really see deeply into what's happening in ourselves. What is exactly happening in ourselves? Are we really there for ourselves? Are we really there for our body and mind? Well, a lot of time we're not. I mean, I'm talking from my experience. I've been a nun for 22 years and been trained in this practice, but I found myself running like there's a monkey in here. We call it a monkey mind. And that is running all the time. And that's why I have to continue practicing so that I can bring myself back to the present moment. So that I can really see myself in the present moment. So it's really unfolding in myself in the present moment, but also to really see the wonders around me. There are so much wonders around us, and especially during this time of the year, springtime. So you can really, wonders are really unfolding in front of us everywhere. Yesterday, Regine took us to the giant case, giant causeway, and just on the way there, I told her, this is such a beautiful country that I would love to have a monastery, a hermitage somewhere here. And I told her, I think I'll become enlightened really quickly if I live in this kind of environment. But I'm aware that, like someone like Regine, for instance, or like you may not have the time to really appreciate the beauties that are there. Or even if you have the time, you may not be able to stop yourself, to stop thinking, to really see and to really experience and to really savor the beauties around you. Have you ever really looked at the sunshine and to see how sparkling it is? Can you really stop to look at the sea and to see the sun shining on the sea and the sparkling of the sea? Well, when we are there, when we are present, then we can really see it, then we can really savor the sunlight. We can really appreciate the sunlight. We can be really nourished by the sunlight. Nature is always there. And if we know how to take refuge in nature, and we know how to be there for nature, nature can be so instrumental in helping us to heal our body and our mind. And it's only when we're there that we can make that possible. that we can really make use of the beauties around us and the wonders around us, and be nourished by the wonders around us. And so this is the kind of thing we do in Plum Village. So you'll be, you're in Plum Village, imagine you're there, and you see like someone walking really slowly, look at the trees, look at the flowers, touching the leaves. You thought, oh, how weird. You've never been to the practice, and you don't know anything about us. You thought, I don't know if that person's normal. But for us, it's completely normal. For us, it's so necessary to come in touch with nature, because nature is really there. Nature is really love for Mother Earth, for us. That she's always there. Mother Earth is always there underneath us. And she's always offering us abundance of nutriment, of nourishment, and of love. And it's only when we're there, we start learning in our head, that we can really recognize her love and the offering that she gives us, beauties around us and the wonders around us. But how do we really practice mindfulness? Yes, we have it in here. We have like this seed in here, we have this potential in here. But how do we tap into this seed inside ourselves? So if you've been to Plum Village, or you've been to Virgin's class, and you probably learned some tools to do this. And one of those tools that we have is breathing. We call it conscious breathing. Not controlled breathing, it's conscious breathing. Which means that we simply acknowledge the breathing for what it is. We don't try to make it like strong, deep, or long, but we simply acknowledge how it is, whether it's shallow, whether it's deep, whether it's like our breathing is really agitated, whether it's calming. We just acknowledge it for what it is. See, in our practice, in the practice of mindfulness, we don't want to create a battlefield in ourselves with, the right thing to do and, the good and bad. We simply acknowledge everything for what it is, and we acknowledge it with a smile. Because whether our good qualities, happiness, joy, or whether it's our suffering, our despair, our anxiety, they're all part of us. And that the practice is to embrace and to accept the whole of ourselves, the totality of who we are, and that we don't want to segregate or push away anything. And it's through accepting everything about ourselves that we can really understand deeply into the roots of our suffering, and that we can help to heal the suffering in ourselves. And so, when we come back to our breathing, we simply acknowledge it. I like to feel my belly falling and rising when I breathe, because this is where our center is. Like our root, like the root of a tree, this is our root. When we come down here, we really bring our attention down, we bring our focus down so we're not get stuck in our head. I think this is where all the problem starts. It's because we're so caught up in our head. Like we have any issues and we just dwell up here, then we can never really get out of it. It's only when we can bring it down here that we have enough clarity and calmness to really see deeply, see a way out of it. And one image, a metaphor that I really love about the mind is the image of a pond. A pond on a day like this, when it's windy and howling and raining. We went up to the cave here today and we were caught in the middle of this like really strong gust. We had to like hold hands together so we wouldn't get blown away. And it was hailing as well. But on a day like this, when we look at a pond, all we see are just ripples and waves. And so we don't really see much in the pond. But on a calm and still, clear day, we can see the pond so still, so calm that we can see the reflection of the sky in it, the blue sky. We can see the reflection of the trees in the pond. And our mind is like that. When we are so caught up in our worries and anxiety, when we're so caught up in our head, the pond of our mind are just ripples and waves. That's when it's so dark, you can't see much. It's like an overcast weather, overcast cloud. We can't really see the blue sky. We can't really see deeply into ourselves. We can't really see much. And if we make decisions on this kind of mind, it's not a very good decision. It's not, because it's not coming from clarity. But if we can just come back to our breathing, bring our attention down to our belly, and really take deep breaths like we just did together. Bringing our attention down here. Then the point of our mind will be clear and calm enough that you can just really see deeply into it. You can see so deeply into it. It's not coming from our head. You can see deeply into it. It's called what we call insight. And this calmness is what we call this calmness, this stopping. Is when we come back to our breathing, it's what we call samadhi, stopping. And when we see deeply, it's what we call looking deeply. And insight. And so insight into ourselves, or understanding into ourselves, it's not coming from the head. It's not like I think, and I got it. It's not like that. But it's coming from the practice of calming our mind, coming to the practice of silence in our mind. And when our mind is quiet, when it's silent, when it's calm, it just reveals to us what's there, and that is deep seeing, and that's called understanding, insight. It comes from clarity in the mind, and the breathing can really help with that practice of calming the mind and clarity in mind. So, if you can just do this, and I know, breathing exercises, mindful breathing is not just, something we have in Buddhism alone. There are other disciplines that use breathing as a technique to really collect, body and mind, and to have focus and attention, like in martial arts, for example. In yoga, we use breathing as well. In other discipline, we use yoga. So I know some of you are familiar with the practice of breathing, but in the practice of mindful breathing, is when we don't try to make it long, we don't try to make it deep, we just merely acknowledge it for what it is. We are merely becoming aware of our breath, our breathing. And that we can do it anywhere, anytime. That we don't have to do it when we do martial arts or to do yoga. That it can happen, anywhere you find yourself. Like right now, as you're sitting and listening to me. But you can really come back here and just feel your belly rising and falling. Feel the breathing. So if you can take this practice with you, then you have a really important tool to help calm body and mind, and to to tap into that seed of mindfulness inside yourself. Tool that help you to wake up. And we have many other tools, so many other tools. But I was just going to talk about the breathing tonight, because I think if we're going to have a retreat this weekend where we learn other tools and we really have to put them into practice. Learning mindfulness is not just intellectual knowledge, that you really have to apply the practice to really experience what mindfulness is. We know what mindfulness is, but if we don't practice it, then it's just an idea in our head. It's intellectual knowledge, but it's not really it's not beneficial because we don't really experience it or taste it. We don't really see the benefit of it if we don't really practice it. So let us breathe together for a couple seconds or minute. My sister will invite someone else to breathe. And come back to our breathing. Feel the air coming in and out. Feel the belly rising and falling. And allow the sound of the bell. You may want to close your eyes if that's easy for you to concentrate. And you may want to allow the bell to go in deeply into exhale our body. That's so that you can facilitate relaxation and healing in every cell of our body. Sometimes we say mindfulness is a light. It's a light inside ourselves. And the moment we lit up this light, we can see, just like this room, when we light up, we turn on the light, we can really see everything around us. And when we light up the light of mindfulness inside ourselves, we can see really deeply into ourselves. We see the root of our suffering. We can see who we are, the way we are, why we are the way we are. I studied psychology when I was at the university, and one of the motivation that got me into psychology was the psychology department. So we're sponsored by the psychology department, and I'd like to share a little bit about this. When I was the motivation that got me into psychology was, why am I the way I am? Why am I suffering the way I suffer? I was going through, I was turning 18, and just past my teenage years where there were a lot of confusion. Especially I came to the US when I was 10, and I was brought up in two cultures, Vietnamese culture and American culture, and I had so much confusion when I went through my adolescent years. I mean, just going through adolescence for anybody is already hard, and there I was, getting stuck in the middle of two cultures, and that was really difficult. And so my motivation was, why am I like this? Why am I suffering like this? Why was I feeling so lonely? And that was the motivation for me to study psychology, because I thought, this is a study of the mind. I want to know my mind. And so I came out of it after 4 years, but I still didn't know my mind very well. I didn't know how to deal with the issues that I was having in my life. And it wasn't until I came to Plum Village, I stayed as a lay practitioner for a year before I decided to become a nun. And what made me decide to become a nun was really the Buddhist psychology. We call it manifestation on these studies or schools. And the teachings and practice had, I felt completely respond to what I was looking for. It totally related to the suffering that I was experiencing as a young person. And this was like 22 years ago. It helps me, the practice of mindfulness really helps me learn how to generate happiness in my daily life. And it also helps me to manage my suffering, how to deal with my suffering. So we have very practical tools on how to do this on ourselves, that we don't really need a psychotherapist to sit there and listen to us suffering. Maybe that may not be, that may help, but it may not really resolve the deep issues in ourselves, the deep roots of our suffering. And it's only through knowing how to manage and embrace my suffering and knowing how to generate happiness and joy in my daily life that helped me to deal with the concerns and issues that had motivated me to go into psychology in the first place. And I think those are also the reasons that had made me decide to become a nun. And so mindfulness practice can really help us to come in touch with joy and happiness. And the joy and happiness is not something that comes from outside. Joy and happiness come from within. It's a potential we have in ourselves. And I think we're so trained to look for it outside. Every our upbringing, our education, it's all saying you have to go out there and get it. And the practice is about coming back here and getting here. Whatever we're looking for, it's in here. It's coming back to ourselves so that we can really tap into that potential in ourselves. And that's when we can really experience true happiness and true joy. Joy and happiness that does not depend on external conditions. Joy and happiness that comes from really deep place in ourselves. And the simple practice like breathing can really help us to tap into that seed of that potential in ourselves to be happy and to be joyful.